Ty and Eric Sheets-Haber. We are going to be talking about today's early morning slate. We're going to talk about the 4-game main one, and but we'll start off with the morning slate. I'm going to just really quickly vent. I don't know how this has happened. Three out of the last 5 days I've played DFS, I've literally been just on the inside of my biggest buy-in in the cash bubble, and somehow when I wake up in the morning, I'm like a quarter of a point short, and I'm the bubble boy. I am getting really tired of it. And it's frustrating, you know what I mean? Because like I actually ended up profiting anyway last night because I almost won the $44 tournament. But it's so frustrating, like just when that happens, and it's like, it doesn't sound like much, but you add that up, and it's a few $1,000 in no time, and it's just kind of tilted. So that's just my quick vent, my rant to start. Sheets, how did you end? Did the fourth place hold up during the early slate, and did the in the lottery?
Yes, it did.
That was the rest of the day.
And the main slate, I ended up on the outside of the bubble as well. Just didn't get it right. What can I say? Like basically, no pitchers got there.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. So I have a question.
Except for Gil.
Right, I didn't have him.
Yeah.
So I have a question about this main slate. Excuse me, this early slate. I guess I'll share my screen, I suppose. But let me just do that. All right. So it's only a 3-game slate, whatever it is. What do you do with Tyler Alexander? Like that's the guy that I wanted to ask you about, because when you do the projections and whatever, you get like 12 to 15 points out of it, even though he's not starting, just because of just because. But it always feels wrong playing these projected long relievers. But like I'm getting like enough of them that it's like a legit decision. Like I have like between Paddock, I actually strangely I'm not getting to what's his name. Singer, I guess, as my top guy. I'm getting to
Singer's not pitching.
No wonder then. Yeah, no wonder. So I'm getting like some mixture of Paddock, Ray, and Alexander. And what do you do with a situation like Alexander? Do you just say forget the projection, whatever it is? You have no ceilings, so don't play him?
No, I mean there's only so many guys to choose from. So
okay,
you kind of, unless you're gonna make all your lineups Ray, Paddock, and Tyon, I think that you're going to end up with some of them. I'm not playing that many lineups, so I'm not even thinking about him. But I do think that he's probably going to be the third or fourth most popular pitcher. And look, it doesn't happen all that often, but it does happen. I mean, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen with Tampa as often. Usually, their long guy does tend to pitch, but there is always that chance, you know what I mean? That something happens and they don't, like, what happens if Sean Armstrong, who's opening, gives up 6 runs in the first inning? Are you going to bring in your regular long relief guy, or are you going to play the game a little differently? Those things happen. So there is always that potential risk of a zero. Now, honestly, the slate is so hard to get anything different that I don't really know what other options you have. Like Hogan Harris doesn't have much of a leash either, and he's going to be the other guy you'd consider. So I personally am just playing Paddock. I'm actually only playing Paddock and Tyon.
Okay.
And I would, if I would play more lineups, I would play Paddock, Ray, Tyon. And then I would probably go, I don't know, I'd probably go Daniel Lynch, Harris over him. But yeah, it's definitely a weird one. And as usual, I always will remind people this. You don't necessarily need to stack, but if you're using 2 pitchers and you're not using many hitters against your pitchers, you're going to end up stacking a little bit. So it's kind of a weird thing. But yeah, it's a big question with the Tyler Alexander. I probably would try to go out of my way to be below the field on him, is I guess what I would say. But it's not necessarily because I don't think that he's a reasonable play. It's that he's going to have crazy high ownership. His role is a little strange. One thing that's weird though is he does have like a little bit of a leash. Like he's thrown a lot of pitches in these games, which is what you want to see throughout the 93, 105, the game before that. He's going deep into games even when he's not the starter. So I don't know. I think that the right thing to do is to have exposure to him, but I would probably like to be lower than the field. Anytime I have any excuse on these little slates, I personally tend to look to just, okay, well, I can just go lower than the field on that if I feel a little bit questioning of it. At the same time, he probably is every bit as good a play of everyone except for Paddock and Tyon. By the way, I really like just for what it's worth, I'm not like betting much today, but like I don't think I'm going to get a bet in time, but I think the over in this Brewers Cubs game is a pretty good idea. It seems too low to me, especially the Cubs side of it. I think the Cubs are going to have a big day today.
Well, you touched on something else. If you're playing in the 3-game slate, are you going to be allowing yourself to play hitters against pitchers, and how many?
Yeah, I have no problem with it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to do it. And I like the problem is it's the getting different factor is going to be really difficult, which is why I decided not to play the bigger buy, and that in the fact that here I am, I thought I had an extra $1,000 in my account or whatever, and it wasn't there. So the combination of the two were tilting me enough just to not get into it. But I like I mostly ended up on the Cubs and Minnesota. And I think Tampa Bay will probably be the most popular team. So I just tried to avoid them as a stacking thing. I didn't want to go there. So I'm pretty okay with where I'm at. And you're not going to get like single digit ownership hardly anywhere. Like I have weird like lineups where I'll do strange things. And I'm not saying this is right, but like using Zach Geloff as a one-off batting seventh and things like that, just to be like a little bit like just to only play the bottom of the order of certain situations. And by the way, where the hell did Miguel Andujar back in our lives? That feels like it's been a while with that guy. He's back for the A's now batting cleanup. Okay.
So this is something that I figured I'd let you guys know that if you do use SaberSim, the don't use pitchers against opposing pitcher is unchecked by default. So for 3 games, 4 games, it is clicked by default, but for 3 games, unclicked by default. So if you do run your SaberSim stuff, I don't say expect, but don't be surprised, I should say, if you get pitchers against your hitters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and I think that's totally reasonable. I think you could even on these kind of slates, because the pitching, like usually we have like one pitcher that stands out. Like nobody here is like a great option. I don't even think Paddock we'd be considering on a full like a 12-game slate. I don't think he'd get consideration at all, to be honest. And it's just we're just playing with what we're dealt basically.
Right.
I don't know why the Colin Ray. I don't know why the Cubs project for the same amount of runs as Milwaukee here. I keep going back to this. I like the Cubs to win that game, and I like the Cubs money line, and I like the Cubs. I certainly like the Cubs over. I actually think both overs are pretty reasonable, or the full game over. But that's sort of my biggest thing is that I want the most exposure. I think you ideally like to leave a little bit of money on the table, but I don't think you don't have to. But it's just always a good reminder to have the little small slate where things are done a little differently. I'll let you go here. Talk through what you're doing a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just running my builds here and see what I would get, and you don't make any changes. You're getting KC and Milwaukee and Chicago as the top hitters, and pitching wise, once again, like Tyler Alexander, Colin Ray, and Paddock. Actually, a decent amount of everybody. That's pretty interesting. 6 pitchers. The lowest exposure I have is 20%. Which is I kind of like seeing that actually. So, we're gonna roll with that for now. I don't really have much of an opinion on the slate, so I'm just inclined to like. I do have a pretty good sense of the projections today, so I'm just gonna kind of roll with it today.
Mm-hmm. It's a weird. I mean, it's hard to have too many opinions, I think, on this particular slate. What I do see is that I see Tampa as being the most popular, and I think that's just where I started. So I just didn't. In my first build, I should say, I just made sure I'm not going to play Tampa. And if I ended up having to use one guy or something, maybe I would do that. But I would prefer it would be one of the guys, lower owned, maybe like a Jose Siri or something like that, batting 6, like just something weird like that. Or maybe, there's silly little moves you can do that are not the right thing overall, but like instead of playing the Rose Arena, maybe leave the 1200 on the table and play Siri or something like that. I mean, there's a bunch of little fancy play syndrome things that sometimes work on these little tiny slates. Anyway, speaking of which, you're not going to be in. You don't play anymore. What am I asking you for? You're not going to be at the World Series at all this year.
Am I doing what? No. What I am doing, I have like 2 guys that I have pieces of. Actually, a couple of guys, and if they do make a final table in June, any of them, I'm going to go because I have to go register for Circa at some point.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use that as an excuse to go there. Otherwise, it's going to be normal. It's going to be August again. I'm going to go out in August.
Gotcha. Well, let me know either way.
Maybe we'll do that again.
Absolutely, that'd be a lot of fun.
It's good.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not playing.
Yeah, I'm debating it. I've got a couple of friends begging me to play the main event, so I'm like, okay, it's been a while, but I still stay pretty much up to date on it, and I watch my friends play online, and I think I can get back in the swing of it and maybe just play the main because it's supposed to have a $15 million first place prize pool this year. I'll take a shot.
Really?
That's what they think. That's the estimates.
Well, they're just
But no, but I mean, but they're usually 10 million. I'll take 10 million. What the hell?
I think so. I think.
All right. Do you want to talk a little bit about the main slate?
Yeah.
And we could get out of here before, so you have time to edit your early slate stuff.
I have plenty of time. I just needed to make sure that I changed the Cubs stuff, because they had the guys that I didn't have in. But aside from that, I mean, I'm pretty cool. All right, so I have the main slate here up.
Yeah. Want to go game by game on this one?
Yeah, sure. And now what we'll do is I'll suffer the way you usually do. Is I don't know which of these 10 games are first because I'm looking at the SaberSim one.
I'm looking at the SaberSim one also. So
yeah. So what do you want to do first? Detroit, Boston.
That's Detroit, Boston.
Okay. Is there any weather concerns for today that we know about?
What I'm seeing, no, not at all. Actually, like literally. I mean, I guess the Mets. The closest would be the Mets and a little bit of no. There's nothing. All right, Pivetta and Flaherty with if it is 60 degrees only in Boston. I mean, it's weird. It's got to be weird for you guys out on the East Coast. Like one day it's like 50 or 60, and the next day it's like 90. I don't really understand. We don't really have exactly the same thing out here on the West Coast.
No, pretty cool that it's a little bit cooler today. It was like really hot yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, and then with that humidity and everything too. All right, so Flaherty, Pivetta. I can start this one off if you want. It's
either way. I mean, I'll just give you an overall view of the slate. I mean, it's pretty spread out as far as the pitching goes. I have nothing that really stands out. I happen to have Flaherty as my top pitcher by like a smidge, but that's pretty much it. And I have Pivetta like projecting a little bit. I say a little bit lower, but again, we're talking about like I have 5 pitchers. All of them are within like 2 points of each other, and I happen to have, or maybe 3 points, and I happen to have Flaherty at the top. So I will say this: that I don't think Flaherty is as big of an upgrade over any of these pitchers than his ownership would indicate. You know, like I have him at 45% at least now, the highest owned guy. But then again, the other guys are not unowned either. I guess it looks pretty efficient. So yeah, okay. So Flaherty's good. He's going to be low owned. I don't think you have to lock him in or anything like that.
Yeah, part of where I think Pivetta against this, like, it's kind of weird because this matchup does feel like a very good one for Pivetta because they don't have many lefties and many power hitting lefties. You've got Perez as a switch hitter, Riley Green, and then you've got Colt Keith. Really, that's it. That's pretty rare to only have 3 lefties against a righty in a major league lineup. So Pivetta's big struggles in his whole career have mostly been through against lefties. He's been, mostly decent. He's had a couple of rough outings, but had a bunch of really solid ones. He's got a leash. We know he's got a ceiling. I like Pivetta a little bit better than Flaherty. When I look at it, though, I'm genuinely considering stacking both. Like I like those 3. I like the three lefties we do have from Detroit. And then I think that the stack for Boston as low ownership is totally in play. It's a 4-gamer, so These were two that I felt immediately like I was going to take a different stand on and try to get way over on the hitting. But at the same time, I do think we have, we don't have that many pitchers to choose from. So sort of weighing that out right now. But I think both Boston and Detroit are certainly in play for me as of right now. And I, for what it's worth, I right now prefer Pivetta slightly over Flaherty, but I think they're both obviously totally reasonable options unless you're stacking the other side.
Well, I will also say this, that if you're playing anybody other than Yankees or Atlanta, you're going to be different. I mean, both those two teams are going to be just through the roof, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So whatever you do, you can, I'm not going to be able to argue with you.
Yeah. Hey, it sounds good to me. When you get the only game, the best hitters park on the slate, and that's the one that no one wants to play, it's usually at least I can feel comfortable with my reasoning for the process, whether or not it's accurate. Right. All right. Atlanta and New York here today. I'm just going to double check the wind. Yeah, the wind blowing in from left, sort of a cross field, but blowing in from left. It's really hard not to have these pitchers at the top for me anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm definitely playing at least either one of these guys, probably in most of my lineups. Well, I don't know if that's true. I really like Gallen. I guess is my favorite pitcher. I don't think there's anything unusual about that. And this Christian Scott thing, I think there's upside, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I have old Arizona in my head. It's like not my first instinct to want to stack against Arizona, just in general, or to pitch a guy against Arizona. However, Scott has good stuff. Young guy, just getting worked in sort of. I probably will avoid it. I think I'm going to stick more with the Gallen side of things. And again, if you're going to play anybody from this game, I think you'd want to play the lefties because of where the wind's coming from, just for what it's worth. Any takes on Gallen, Scott?
Yeah, Gallen and Scott are, again, I have them as like reasonable within the group of five. I guess Gallen's going to be higher owned. It certainly makes sense. He got a better ceiling for sure. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to get to either of the hitting here. I think I know what I'm going to do hitting wise. But I think I know. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. But yeah, again, it's kind of a weird spread out pitching slate, and I have many cases for either of them.
Yeah. For what it's worth, like, I guess, again, because it's a 4-game slate, I don't naturally have interest in these hitting things either, but it is just worth noting that the Mets will be, we talk about teams being overlooked. The Mets will be completely overlooked, just for what it's worth, and maybe get a little bit of exposure that way. Just something to think about. All right. And then we move over to
Washington. Like right now, just so you know, like the way Sims work is if these projections held, this would be my highest owned game. I mean, it would be 55% Mets, like 50% Arizona. You know what I mean? Just because literally anything you pick except for Yankees and Atlanta is going to just project like so much better in the Sims, right? Just because like those two are going to be just so popular.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Do you want to start us off with the Atlanta game?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, I mean, these Atlanta guys, they have very, very big projections. They're going to be very, very popular, and it's a 4-game slate. And I'm probably inclined to fade it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when I say inclined to fade, I'm not going to force fade it, but I'm not going to be surprised if I don't get as much of it if you run the Sims here, and that's partially why I use the Sims. Is it forces me to do stuff that feels like kind of stupid, like play freaking Miami against Darvish yesterday. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't do that. That's stupid, But sometimes, the range of outcomes is just like it's the way it works sometimes. I also have. I wouldn't mind if I got to the Ray Kerr at 5,900 maybe. I don't know. Just like 4-game slates, like pretty much all bets are off. So kind of like that a little bit. I'm not getting to the Washington side today. So again, like if somehow I could find a way to play Atlanta without duping the whole universe, yeah, they're going to project really well. But I don't see that working. Unless, listen, in the big buy-in, sure, you could do something with the pitching, I guess, and do something with the complementary stacks. Like maybe play Atlanta with the Mets or something, or you know what I mean, or Atlanta with, I don't know, Detroit, something like that to get different enough. But overall, it is really tough. Especially remember, on a 4-game slate, let's say you're even playing like the lottery. Remember, most of the 150 matches, they don't give a crap whether it's 2 games or 11 games. They're going to play 150. Okay. Right. And if you play Atlanta and you fight like the 150 maxers in a 4-game slate, it's really tough.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you got to be legit perfect, and even then you might end up duping. So I would be inclined to just try your best to, if you run stuff, embrace the lineups that you get that don't have Atlanta and the Yankees, but accept the fact that they do project to be the best.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you some kind of sort of shocking numbers. Guess what? Trevor Williams is 4-0 this year. He's got a 2.2 ERA.
Wow.
Can we make an argument here for the Acuna-less, to take a 5% owned pitcher on a 4-game slate who has been honestly overall the second best pitcher on the slate this season? Actually, you could argue that he's been the best. Well, not fantasy wise, I guess, but still, he's 6,500. Maybe that's a weird thing you could do. Even if you're playing Atlanta and your single entries or something like that, maybe in the large field stuff, you just get overweight on the Trevor Williams. And look, nobody likes to pick on Trevor Williams historically more than I do, but we have to adjust and we have to realize that these guys do change in the offseason, and he's been really good so far this year. On top of it, like against the Atlanta team, it's the strikeout rate is low against the guys he'll be facing, but it's not like, I don't know. It's a 4-gamer. So I think that's sort of in play for me. I also think that Washington, I think that just because the ownership, I think I would rather, like, I'll take shots with the Washington side. And remember, like, Atlanta's offense has not been quite the same, especially, they're not quite the same without Acuna in general too. You got really cheap pieces for whatever that means if you need them. On the Washington side, you've got Lane Thomas with 2 home runs yesterday, in a good matchup and with the platoon splits. I think this feels like a decent Washington spot to me. And the Braves are so obvious, I don't even know that I want to mention them on the other side. But like, man, I'll tell you what, if you really get 0 ownership on Trevor Williams on a 4-game slate, I think I might do it. At least a little bit, at least in the the 20 whatever smaller buy-in, larger field stuff. But yeah, I think Washington and Boston are so far my 2 favorite things to do hitting wise on the slate. And yeah, I just don't know how to profitably play Atlanta without max entering. I guess the answer would be to give yourself a chance would be like, make sure to have Duvall and Arcia in your lineup, or make sure to have Klinick and Arcia, just something to get it a little bit different, because it's so hard to get different with these Atlanta stacks. Sometimes I like the game theory behind these smaller slates, though. Like, I think it's interesting, and they're all kind of different. But like Trevor Williams, even if this game had 6 games on it, there's no way in a million years I'd bring up Trevor Williams' names. But because there's 4 games, there's no reason why he couldn't be one of the 2 highest scoring pitchers, especially when he's been basically the second best pitcher in real life of all of them this year, maybe the best. All right, then you get the your Yankees in Anaheim.
All right. So as I mentioned, the Yankees are alongside of Atlanta, the top projected team. They're going to be really, really high owned. And you have Rodon, who projects right alongside the other guys. So this is where you're supposed to turn like the turn the volume off or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is when you get the complete sheets biased take here. Just all the Angels, just every one of them, just play. I mean, listen, I'll put it to you another way. You have a sheets bias perfect storm. Not only can you go against Carlos Rodon, but you could do it with Joe Adell. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So we will be playing all of the Angels in the outfield, late night hammer, whatever you think. This is what I am sort of recommending, but not really. But yes, if I get to the Angels, I'm going to be very, very happy about that. Right now, I'm not getting there, and I'm not going to be stubborn enough to force myself to play them. But I kind of hope that I get to play the Angels. But with that said, Rodon looks like, again, one of those 5 decent pitchers, and the Yankees look like one of the 2 best stacks. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got one more add-on. I think I like the idea. First of all, if I naturally had to pick my other pitcher, I think Rodon and Gallen is probably who I would settle on personally as like but that's for like, single entry, the 121 type of thing or whatever.
Right.
In terms of actual strategy, like I think that yours makes a lot of sense. And it's not like the Angels have a nothing total here. And I think that's not a bad idea. I did want to point out Patrick Sandoval, and look, these are all different Yankees. There's not a huge sample size or whatever, but he's had 3 starts against the Yankees basically had enough at bats to where you'd say 2 or 3 starts. Yeah, I guess let's call it two starts. Let's call it 2 full starts, whatever. They haven't touched him yet. You could make an argument for Sandoval here. He's not going to be completely unowned, but he's been horrendous this season. But it's a 1-game sample size, and you never know. It's a Thursday getaway day. You don't know what kind of lineup the Yankees run out there. They probably, because they keep winning so much, they probably run their best stuff out there. But if they don't, you have the Sandoval stuff, and yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by that. But yeah, as far as the Yankee stack goes, I think that's actually like, I guess it's right there with the Braves as being the clear obvious ones. So for me, I think I'm leaning more, Boston, Washington, and I think I like your idea about the Angels a little bit. So that's sort of where I'm at. And then pitching, I have Gallen and Rodon as the main ones, but Pivetta, Flaherty, Scott, and I think you could, as you mentioned with Kerr, I think you could take a shot with him where you're not playing it. But I've got Gallen and Rodon as clearly, like if it was a bigger slate, they're probably the guys I'm using. And I know Flaherty's been really good this year. Something about it makes me want to. This makes me want to avoid him. I don't know what that is, but I'll see if I feel the same way at 6. And I'm guessing if we show up at 6, it's going to be very quick, and it's also probably going to be a little. I'll talk a little more basketball on that one because there's not a whole lot of baseball stuff to tighten up later on. It's just going to be different lineups. Is it?
So I wanted to let you know that I just want to share a sweat, but it's not really a sweat I'm about to lose, but just to share with you, the French Open has been going on. And so they've been running these terrible MTTs, like GPPs with first prize for 5K, but they finally ran one with 20K for first. Started yesterday, and then with the rain, it's finishing today. Currently in solo first, about to get overtaken. Yeah, within the next 10 minutes.
Oh no!
By JBC. Yeah, he's got Cochia Reto, who's about to win here and overtake me. But it's a sweat for a little while. Maybe she defaults somehow, but yeah.
But you can somehow hang on for second or third. What's that?
Oh no, definitely get it second.
Oh, beautiful.
For 5K or something like that, which is good. Awesome. And hate to see it. I think I have 35 in this one. He's got the 76. I know he's got a full 150 too. It's like, damn it.
Oh, that's rough. Nice though, man. That's pretty sweet. That'd be pretty sweet if you won the first one. Oh, we finally got the 20K, so she finally gets to win one.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say finally gets to win one. You win those things all the time. All right, guys. Well, we will see you at 6. It's probably gonna, like I said, a quick show. I'll talk more about how the Timberwolves are gonna win and go to Game 6 tonight. And I like the idea of playing a blowout angle. That's going to be what I talk about for the basketball game. So, all right. And otherwise, and then we'll talk about Sheets winning the day slate while we're on, probably.
That sounds good to me.
All right. Good luck, everybody.